Hi, everybody. I am Arielle Silver. Welcome, welcome. I'm the program manager over at the SONA Foundation. Thank you for joining today's in session. I am excited to be joined today by Joey Verskotzi, more commonly known just as Verskotzi, and he's a Los Angeles-based songwriter, producer, and very kind human. I'm going to bring Joey in right now. Hi, Joey. How are you?
Hey, good, Ariel. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk with you today. We just played a couple shows together recently, and I absolutely love your songwriting and the way that you frame the songs on stage with backstory, context, and insight. Instead of me reading your bio, I'd like to give you time to introduce yourself as we get into the conversation. So, will you kick us off by telling us a little bit about you and your journey with music?
Yeah, sure. Well, first off, again, thank you for having me on this. I'm honored to join. And yeah, those two shows we did were super fun recently, especially the Kulak's Woodshed. That was like a blast from the past place. That was like super unique, really cool place to play. Yeah, so I mean, I'll try to give the shorter version of my bio and background, but I'm Verskotzi. I just go by Verskotzi. My name's Joey Verskotzi. Yeah, I've been doing this for like 15 years now. I mean, I was playing in bands as a teenager, really, and that I caught the bug at a age of like 13, and still got it with me. And if you've read, have you read the book The Alchemist before?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Couple times.
And it talks about the notion of like beginner's luck when you like first start chasing your dream. Like if you're chasing your dream and you're doing the right thing, it's like the universe like blesses you with a
Mm.
beginner's luck to be like you're doing the right thing. Like that, when I read that book, I was like, oh, that's when my high school band got to play Warp Tour, the Vans Warp Tour, and that was like, for us, we were like, we made it, and it's all downhill from here. And, but so yeah, I mean, all that to say, I've been doing this for a while. I'm an artist, I'm a producer, I'm a songwriter, and I compose for film and TV as well. I Like the first project I put out in like 2011 for my solo project was got a lot of love from like sync and licensing, and that led to me then doing a lot of composing for film and TV. And basically up until 2017, I was living in Minneapolis, where I'm from Minnesota originally. And in those years, I was really either like on the road touring to promote my artist material, or in the studio working on it, and or working on scoring for film and TV. And then moved out to LA in 2017 to pursue a publishing deal, and been out here. My wife Francine McGee, the two of us, we moved out here together from Minneapolis in 2017, and been here ever since. So
Ah,
yeah.
thank you for that. You just filled in some of the things I didn't know about you that I've been so
Oh,
curious to know. So,
great, great.
um, well, this is the month of May. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so that's a big topic that you and I were gonna talk about today. And I'm so glad that you're willing to talk about this topic. I think it's just so important. I want
Mhm.
to start off by saying that one of my favorite quotes, and it's been variously attributed to different sources, but the quote is the difference between theory and practice is that in theory there's no difference, and
Mhm.
obviously in practice there is.
Mhm.
Um, and so this theme of mental health awareness, I wanted to ask you first. What is mental health? Because this is a topic that I've seen you talk about on stage as well. So, what does mental health mean to you, in theory versus in actual practice?
Hmm. Great quote, first of
Mm,
all, and great question. Hmm. I guess like first thing that comes to mind is like mental health in theory is like your literal state of mind at any given point. And if that state of mind is on a spectrum, it's like you could see the spectrum as like from maybe like the far negative side of that spectrum is like, severe depression, anxiety, delusion, and then the positive far side of that spectrum being contentment, happiness, peace, joy. Um, like that to me is like where are you in that, and like that frame of mind is mental health. But then in theory, but then in practice, it's, I think, being able to identify at any given
Mm.
moment where you are in that spectrum, and then what you need to do with tools that you may have learned or been given or researched or in therapy or whatnot. Use those tools to then get yourself to a more desired state of mental health, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Yeah. So in practice in your life,
Mm-hmm.
how does that play out? How do you um how did you maybe we can go back in history a little bit, but how did you first become aware of the ability to be aware of your mental state so that you
Mm-hmm.
could even get to the place where you could make a choice about how to shift it if it doesn't, if you feel like you're not feeling so hot.
Sure.
Um, because I think that for all of us, there's this, um, the early part of our lives, we're just feeling what we're feeling, and we don't even necessarily know sometimes what we're feeling. And
Yeah.
then we get to a point where we know what we're feeling, but we still don't have any distance on that. We don't realize, oh, I'm feeling um something that doesn't feel good,
Mm-hmm.
but I can take some actions to shift that. What did that look like to you in that um, emerging awareness? How did that first show up for you?
um well, before, obviously I've known that our chat was coming up, so I've been thinking about this, and obviously with May being mental health awareness, it's like I've been trying to be more conscious of, like, what mental health looks like, and yeah, my journey with it and whatnot. And something I thought of that I think answers this question, is that, so when I was 13, I got my first guitar, and that was like, um, so I'd played instruments before that. I played my first instrument was piano, and I was like, like age 7, like the typical. It's like if you start taking piano lessons, it's like the first thing, and it's earlier on, and I enjoyed it. But then I got into drums and percussion, and I was like, oh, okay, this is really cool. But it wasn't until I got a guitar that it was like my brain lit up. Something
Mm.
inside of me lit up, and I remember feeling like, um, I had struggled with, making and keeping friends at the end. It's a tough age, but like I remember I didn't feel like I had like a firm grip on my identity, even though you're so young. But it was like I remember watching friends of mine be like so sure about, like, they love. I grew up in a small town. It was like they love farming, or like they love, you know, BMXing, or they love like their dirt bike, or that whatever it might be, or like they loved hockey. And I remember feeling like, what is my that thing?
Mm.
There was a
Yeah.
there was a cognitive dissonance happening for me. I didn't understand it at the time, but it was like I was having the early signs of like an identity crisis, or like an identity like grasping for what is that thing. And music, and specifically guitar, was the first thing that allowed me to go, oh, like I couldn't wait for school to be done so that I could like get home, or like school, whatever, sport practice, and then like do my homework. And then it was like, just give me that guitar so that I can start expressing myself more and more. And that was the first way that I started writing songs too. But it's like, anyway, I understood that music was the thing that it not only like lit me up inside and allowed me to start sharing my light, but it also was the thing that allowed me to then um, start expressing myself in a way that would allow me to get myself out of negative states of mind farther into the future.
Yeah. Um, Man, I have a couple questions to ask you just coming from that. But the first question that I'm really curious about is in myself as well. What was it about the guitar? Because I was a classically trained woodwind player, so that's a
Mm,
linear instrument. You can't play chords. It's in your mouth, so you can't sing, you can't, but the piano is so similar to the guitar in that
mhm.
you can accompany yourself, you can sing along, you can play chords,
Yeah,
all that stuff, but there's something that happened with you when you picked up a guitar.
yeah.
Why was it that? Was it that you could move around with it? You could take it into your bedroom or you could go down to the park or something, like it was movable or
I
something
think it,
else?
um, there was a sense of like liberation with it for me because it was so like I didn't take lessons really. I just was like my
Yeah.
next door neighbor had one and I was like I every time I watched him play, I felt like I was watching him invent like create fire basically. I was like this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life and I have to understand how to do this. And he would like watch his name's John and he would watch these like Led Zeppelin concert footage documentaries too. And I just remember like being glued to the TV and being like, this is the wildest, coolest thing. So there was a sense of like, I think I was, I think with like the piano, I was in lessons and it was very like, it's sheet
Mm,
music and
yeah.
piano's great. I just answered a question like a hypothetical the other day. My wife and I were talking about if you could instantly learn one instrument proficiently right now, what would it be? And my answer was piano because I wish I was better at piano. I'm like a producer piano player. I can like get it done, but I'm not going to sit there and play you piano. But like with the guitar, I think there was like it felt like there were absolutely no rules attached to it. And like my association with it was like Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin. And it was like rock and roll and something about, and my first guitar was an electric too. So it was like a Fender with like the practice amp with the distortion button on it. So I could like hit the distortion and I would just, to me, I was like, I am the coolest person on the planet now.
I think all your classmates probably thought the same thing.
I don't know about that, but it was the thing too is like I felt so it just felt like even though I understood that so many other people play guitar, like it felt like my little secret where I was like this thing that I discovered that I was like I finally found it. But I think it's because it had something to do with there was like an awakening starting to happen in me with it.
Yeah, I mean, the way you describe it, it sounds like it was a kind of a combination of, freedom, expression,
Mhm.
um, identity formation, beginning of that.
Yeah,
So when did so you're not just a guitar player though, you're a songwriter.
right.
And I know some of your songs. I've seen you perform them, and they are lyric-based
Hmm.
songs. So when did the English language part of it come into your experience with the guitar?
Pretty quickly, actually. I remember um, like I remember the first demos that I recorded not being probably too much further away from being like within a year or so of me having the guitar. It was like once I had a few chords and had learned enough of other people's songs, I kind of, you start going, oh, okay, I understand sort of like a bit of a formula that's happening here. And I was always like, I grew up Catholic, and so I was always and I went to a Catholic school, so it was like I was in the choir. I was like, you sing in church every Sunday. It's like church was very much like where I was like, oh, I can sing. Like, but that just kind of that always felt like a oh yeah, I can sing whatever. Like I'm able to like keep a pitch and like keep rhythm, but it just like it never felt to me like something that I was like, oh, maybe I should investigate this a little further until I had the guitar and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, I can sing. So why don't I just like try singing with this and I was obsessed with forming a band too. So it was like, my friend Greg had and these are all just like childhood friends, but it was like he and I had the same birthday and our dads teamed up and got us both guitars for our birthday. So it was like we both got them at the same time. And then I got my friend Michael to get a drum set. So I was like giving him drum lessons. And then like no one else would sing. So I was like, I'll just sing because I was so motivated to have it happen. So anyway, yeah, pretty soon in. I'm rambling about this story now. I didn't think I'd be talking about this.
No, but it's great because it also like it brings back those memories. And so now I want to ask you, bringing it back to mental health and that topic, when did was it right from the beginning, or did it happen later on that you started to use music and songwriting as um I mean, I don't, I'm going to assume that at some point in time it was somewhat therapeutic in some way. Because I think that that's one of the reasons why kids or people of any age really, but like that there's something about the beginning, and I really related to what you were saying about the guitar. You weren't trained looking at sheet music. Like there was a sense of you could create yourself. You could create the music yourself. You weren't tethered to a composition that someone else had
Yeah,
made, and here's how you play it, right?
yeah,
And I think that I just imagine that moved into, oh, I can express
yeah,
my something within me. So
yeah.
tell me, talk about that a little bit.
One of the first songs I wrote was actually it was one of the first. There was a school shooting that I remembered, or that not that I remember, but that like it was like the first one that I experienced as like a teenager. Not experienced personally. Sorry, I'm saying this wrong, but it was like a school
Yeah.
shooting had happened in America, and I don't remember what it was, but or which one.
That is such a horrendous statement right there,
Even as I said it, I'm like, it's such a just an absolute tragedy, travesty that that's exactly how we have to
that
say
there
which one.
exactly, like, there have been so many that were like, "Oh, I don't even remember which one," but right.
No, yeah, but one of the first songs I ever wrote that was like one of the first demos was like it was my way of processing that. So it's like pretty much immediately I understood, maybe not consciously, but like subconsciously, I was like, this is a way to express and to deal with, you know, pain and anxiety and things like that. So, um, and I guess I've always gravitated towards writing about heavier things, I guess, and not even necessarily heavy. It's like, you know, I have a lot of like upbeat music, but it's just like I tend to really, you know, I want there to be substance in what I'm writing about because I just see, you know, music is such a powerful way for us to, you know, we essentially we're transmuting pain through it. So it's like we are, if you're able to, if you've been given this gift to transmute through music and through vibration, you know, it's something that is not to be taken lightly, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
I've always seen it as something that's like very, a very powerful tool, both for us to transmute that pain, but then for us to hopefully help others by singing about certain things that are then relatable to help people with their own healing journeys, then if it connects to them in some way or form.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Mhm.
your songs, the songs of yours that I've heard, they're so hooky. There's so many, catchy moments in the songs. They're so beautifully, in terms of like um melodically, they're so enjoyable to listen to, but they're so
Thank you.
rewarding on a lyrical level to listen
Mm,
to as well, because you are talking about um real experiences and real emotions of um being human in these day-to-day
yeah,
in the day-to-day living.
thank you for saying that. It means a lot.
So that's the art of music, music is also your career.
Mhm,
And so you signed a publishing deal a while back, and now
mhm,
you're back to being self-represented, I believe,
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm curious. Tell me about what it was like when you were signed, and still thinking about this in terms of mental health, and looking at it from that lens, from a daily work perspective and also from the mental health perspective. What was it like when you were signed, and what was behind the transition from being signed to going back to being independent? And How did your relationship with music and with songwriting, um, what was your relationship with music and songwriting during those points, the
Yeah.
being signed, the transition, and then now?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, so like I said, moved out to LA in 2017 with this the topic of this publishing deal on the table, and it became clear it was like if this was going to happen, I'd have to be in LA. So it was like we moved, and which was a huge huge decision. And I signed the deal in 2019, and it's the first and only pub deal I've been in, and ultimately it was an incredible experience. I learned so much, I grew so much, had a lot of cool experiences, like traveled around the world, doing sessions and meeting all kinds of cool people, and I think it's in the earlier days of it. There's so much excitement and there's so much motivation, and it's like talking of mental health. It's like that if we're thinking about like the spectrum I thought about, it's like that's part of your mental health is like being really excited, being really motivated, and um, in the earlier days of it, there was so much, there was such a steep learning curve of um, getting, you're like essentially being onboarded, like you're getting a new job essentially, because it's like now um, you're like answering to and you're dealing with an entire team of people at a company. And uh, it's a thankfully, I've always been very on top of like the admin and business side of my career. And like, so when it came to, getting split information for songs that I'm ingesting and like the ingestion process and metadata tagging and all that, it's like, I love all that kind of stuff, which can be quite stressful for people, which is its own bag then, because it's like that can be incredibly overwhelming and deter the process for certain people. But I think like in the beginning, I knew that phase was coming, but it took a while to really like get the flow of like, um, you take a step up in your game, and it's like now you are, there's a bit of an indirect pressure that comes with it, because within a publishing deal, inherent in those two words is that you now have a responsibility to this company. To there's a financial responsibility, there is a delivery expectation, and all these things are good. These are all like things that I was looking for, and at the same time it's like um, it's just a lot to take to add to your plate when you're already focused on just like making the best music you possibly can. So it's like the reality of the very, very business based nature of signing something like a publishing deal. It's like it sets in quickly, and it can be, um, it can get overwhelming sometimes, but thankfully, and I didn't say it before, that the company I signed with, they're called Angry Mob Music. They're an LA based music publisher and independent, and they're fantastic. And, I love everyone over there. And, it's like they, everyone in their different department, I've always said with them, it was like, if I ever had a question, like I could just like send it to the general email, and whoever was supposed to get back to me about that question would get back to me. And it's like I always had an answer. And I think if you sign a publishing deal, you should kind of feel like suddenly like you're maybe being this word maybe has like a negative connotation, but like almost like barraged by your new team. It's like you should feel like you're maybe a little overwhelmed by how much it's like, hey, do you want to do this session? What do you think of this artist? Do you want to do this session? What's your availability this week? Can you do this writing camp in a month? Um, hey, we need these splits because we have a pitch for something. Like, hey, who's the other writer on? It's like these things coming into you can be overwhelming, but like that's what should be happening, because that means your publisher is doing their job. If you like sign a deal and it's just kind of like, oh well, it's really going, it's like you don't want that. Like it should kind of feel a little like there's cortisol spikes that happen, but it's like it's more adrenaline than anything. But that whole side of signing a deal was like it was really exciting. And I think some of the challenges for me, over the years, though, came more from signing the deal. It was the first time that I really got into doing a lot more co-writing with and for other artists, because up until that point, I had pretty much just been doing my own artist project and was composing for film and TV, touring a lot more than I had been planning to then do after signing the deal. And a big reason for signing the deal is that I wanted to get more into co-writing and producing. And I think the thing that I didn't understand, and this was just one of those, it's just like I just had to learn the lesson because there's no way to know this other than going through it, was that the balance of, it's like my artist project and then being writer producer. So it's like artist Verskotzi, writer producer Verskotzi. That balance got really, really out of balance, essentially. And that, and it wasn't like, it wasn't by design, it just kind of happened. And I guess it was by design in the sense that like I genuinely was like, I want to really invest in the writer producer side because I really want to see like what this is like and how far it can go, essentially. But then I got to a point where after a couple of years of being in the deal, I realized, oh man, like it had gone from like this to like, it was like 98% of me was writer producer and it was like 2% was artist. And that, so I had to really recalibrate. And I think for me, that kind of brought its own, within that process, I was kind of going through another identity crisis where it was like, I kind of got caught up in like, just because I'm working on a lot of like pop, hip hop, R&B kind of stuff, and I really like that sort of music. It was like some of it started to like work its way into my artist project in a way that like felt very incongruent after I was able to like look at it a little more clearly. And I was having like another identity crisis within that. And so that was kind of tough for me to be able to have to course correct on that. And that came along with a bit of depression for me. And that was kind of around like in the COVID time, like it was like 2021, 22, where I really had to put a lot of effort forward just personally and interpersonally in order to like kind of dig deep to see like who was I again. And because I kind of lost myself inadvertently in that process. And so, but then, like you said, that deal, it came to an end. I was with them for 6 years and that came to an end at the top of 2025. And it was basically like in a matter of months, it was like I was in a record deal that ended. This was like towards the end of 2024. I was in a record deal that had ended and then was offered a management deal that I passed on, and then the publishing deal came to an end as well. And it was like 1, 2, 3, like all in a row, pretty close. And so that was like, that was tough for sure. I mean, it was, I had different people say to me like, oh, it's like, it's great, free agent, sky's the limit, but it's like a blank canvas is
intimidating.
Yeah, exactly. Cause it's like, you're just kind of back to your own devices. And even though it was like, I was sort of starting to build again from like a new, like level, if you will, because there's like so much had happened in those 6 years, it still nevertheless was like, I remember feeling like I've been here before, and it's like, there's something that is it's very humbling. It's very, it can be intimidating. It can be overwhelming. But so I think towards the end of that deal, just kind of naturally from just like how much work and that's a good thing. It's like we were busy the whole time. Like there was never a moment in that deal where I was like, oh, what's going on? Like, why aren't we? It was just like, we were working, which it's like, that's the way I wanted it to be. That's the way they wanted it to be. It's just like, but I think towards the end of it, I really did need a little break. Like I think I had gotten a bit burnt out, and that's a whole other topic of mental health. Is like burnout. We're not machines, and we're not, and I definitely put or I have, at least in the past, like put too much pressure on myself to have a certain amount of output. And if I'm not creating, I'm, in your mind, you're like, oh, I'm not like working on this. But it's like, if we're not recharged, like we're worthless. And so there was definitely a lot of good and tough lessons that I learned in that whole process.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is probably a good place for me to put a pause on this and to say that
Mhm.
I want to plug some of the programs that we have over at the Sona Foundation,
Yeah.
and the things that you're saying play right into some of these things. First of all, we have the the Therapy Assistance Project, which is a
Mhm.
grant program that offers $1,250, so 1250 grants to songwriters for one-on-one therapy with a licensed therapist, and that grant works for songwriters who have a therapist already, and if they don't have a therapist, we partner with the folks over at Backline to help match songwriters and composers up with a therapist from their vetted network of therapists, and their network, they're all therapists who have worked with music makers, basically.
Wow.
So that's a therapy assistance project. We call it TAP, and
Mhm.
we're really excited. We launched it about a year ago, I think it was. Two
Mhm.
years. I can't remember now exactly when it first launched. And we were able to give a lot of grants to songwriters, and then we had to turn the tap off and work on fundraising to refill the coffers. We're so excited that this week it is being turned back on. And so the tap portal is now open on our website, sonafoundation.com. And we are also in talks with publishers to provide these grants directly to their in-house songwriters. But the grants are also and will always be open to independent songwriters as well. So for those who are listening, if you're signed to a publisher, ask them if they have an internal TAP fund available. And if you're independent, you can just head right to our website, sonafoundation.com, and find a link to the info in the drop-down box on the navigation bar. Joey, we've been talking specifically about your career path as a songwriter, but you are a whole person. You have creative parts, you have spiritual parts, you have the professional part,
Mhm.
and you have, your wholeness. Just you have your wife, and you wake up on a Saturday morning, and you have a weekend. Like all of us, whatever that looks like in your life.
Mhm.
Um, so your work that you do as a songwriter and as an artist is larger than the career story that you've been telling. And
Yeah.
when I've seen you on stage, you talk about mental health from the stage. I'm curious what mental health looks like for you in now at this point when you're in the recording studio as a producer or in other facets of your life. You talked about burnout when you were really enjoying the work that you had at hand, but that constant go, 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 go. We all
Yeah.
need to kind of replenish the coffers, and
Yeah.
um, recognize that we're not just machines in the capitalist movement. We're human beings. So what does mental health look like to you now when you're in the studio or just in life in general?
Yeah. I mean, um, in the studio these days, it looks like a lot more patience for me,
Mm,
a lot more grace, a lot more, uh, a lot less ego, I should say. Um, and the patience aspect is a big part of it, where I'm just like, I'm working on what will become my fourth album right now. And I'm just really letting it, I guess steep is a word, where it's like I'm just kind of, poke open an idea and see what's there, and then,
mm,
lay something down or try a couple things and feel like it's inspiring to a certain point, and then just kind of like leave it be. It's just like a new process for me. So there's a lot more grace and patience, and um, in that mental health realm, it's like a lot more kindness, I think, to myself is what I'm trying to do. And then, like within the session realm, it's like I'm, you know, I'm doing some projects for a couple artists, working on some albums that I'm really excited about, um, and doing some sessions with different writers that I love working with for, pitch, K-pop, etc. And just like really making sure that, you know, I'm I'm remembering to have fun with it,
Yeah.
and to um, to turn the pressure down on myself a little bit. And again, it's like no one puts more pressure on me than me, and I have had to learn that the hard way over the years. And so it's looking a lot more balanced, I guess you could say. And then just in life in general, yeah, just really, I'm have a really consistent, like meditation routine that I follow, and health and wellness and all of those things, and trying
I was
to
gonna ask you if there are specific practices, and so, can we open up that meditation routine a little bit? Like, what does your meditation routine look like?
yeah, just like, you know, always in the morning, always at night, just trying to bookend the day with that. And I think just like, within the day itself, like not letting yourself get too far away from the states of mind that you can um, reach during meditation, if you will. And I think like um, yeah, the word that keeps coming to me is like just more patience, more grace, more um I guess it's like, we need to remember. I feel like most people generally like are quite naturally like very kind to other people, but it's like we need to also remember to show that same kindness to ourselves. And like
Yeah,
yeah, because I think that a lot of us, especially in the music industry or in the creative world, it's like we're our own worst critic always. And it's like, a lesson that I learned over the years was like, there's such a um, like a gnarly intertwining and inseparability of um, like we as the artist and the art itself. It's like our identity is so wrapped up in the art. And so like if something that you've worked really hard on doesn't maybe like do as well as you thought it might do, it's like remembering and having to teach yourself that it's like that doesn't mean that necessarily you're not doing well then.
right.
And like that's a really tough one. That was a tough one for me to learn. Certain things not doing as well as I wanted them to, especially then with like the pressures of like, having a label or something around you that's like, you're trying to perform and trying to get something to do well. And it's like, just because something might not do as well as you thought it would or wanted it to, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not doing well. And so it's like within that, like in the spiritual realm, it's like, the idea of non-attachment and like not being concerned with the fruits of your labor, but just putting in the work, putting in the labor, and enjoying the labor, and then allowing. I think it's interesting that we use the word release day. It's like we are,
Mm,
in a spiritual sense, when you put a piece of art out into the world, you are releasing something from your creative process. And it's like, um, again, just trying to, it's like more patience, less ego, and like less me. Like that's the idea, is like less, less us being in the way of whatever it is, because it's like we're ultimately just trying to, you know, channel what's here and like make ourselves as clear of a channel as we can to like allow ideas to roll through us. So all that to say, my process is, it's changing for sure, and it's like it's very but I'm enjoying watching the process change, because and I'm trying to just like take a more bird's eye view above it and not be so like wrapped up in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I love what you just said about release day. I've never thought about it like that.
Yeah,
But but really when I think about the process of creating, it's like we're taking something inside us. There's some material inside us, whether the material is from long ago experiences or events that happened in our lives that created a material inside us, or if
yeah,
it's just a feeling that we have today on a Tuesday, there's material, and that material can be emotional, it can be, um, character driven or scene driven, or, it can be nostalgic or wrapped up in future hopes and dreams or fears and anxieties, whatever that material is. It's like, as songwriters, we work with that, and we work with, um, air and sound vibrations
right,
and language, and we swirl it all together, and it starts to come out, and we maybe write it down or record it, and then we give it to someone else or the world. And
yeah,
that idea of like, I'm releasing it from inside me because it needs to come out. And
yeah,
also I'm really, now that it's come out and it's become its own entity that is outside of myself, I'm also not holding on to it anymore either. I'm allowing it to be free and to do whatever it needs to do, whatever it might do in the world.
yeah,
And maybe it will be a global hit, or maybe it will just hit somebody's heart,
exactly,
sitting at Kulak's, in the audience somewhere.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And yeah, what you said earlier too, like channeling like the vibration and everything. I mean, it's like, we're the closest things to, um, I said this around something I did with my last album, but it was like, um, I don't know that anyone can say they made something out of nothing more than musicians because we're working with literal vibration in the air, and then the product that we then make is invisible. It's
Yeah.
this like intangible thing that like is, and we also, musicians are, um, it's like we're hearing things, like we hear things where most people like you're hearing things. That's not good. It's like speaking of mental health, but it's like no, it's like I'm like I hear this like symphony of something in my head and I have to get it out. And it's like to start with something like that that's just like this, something that's kind of just reverberating around in your head to then I'm looking at my monitors are like on either side of me here in my studio and it's like there's always a moment and my friend Eric Applewick in Minneapolis said this to me so poignantly one time, but he's like there's like a moment in the creative process in the studio where you're working with these elements that you've worked with 100,000 times before that, but there's always this one moment where whatever for whatever reason some combination and some key and tempo and whatever it's like some combination happens where something comes out of the monitor and you go, oh, now it's special, and there's no
Mm.
way of finding that moment, but it's like
I just
when
got chills when you said that. I just
but it yeah,
felt
and
it
it
all.
and props to Eric for coming up with that. It's like, but it's so true, and it's like it when you know it when it's not happening for sure. But like when it happens, it's like it's why we keep doing it because it's like that moment is there's such a rush in it because it's like oh this is what's been going on up here and now it's happening in here
Yeah.
and and it never gets old. And I think a big part of my this journey and the season that I'm in right now, this big rebuild and everything. You kind of asked how it like earlier. It's like what's this, the new phase of like kind of being like back to being self, managed and everything. And I think I'm just falling in love with music again in a different way. And it's like I'm starting to remember again, why I started doing this in the first place. And it's easy
Mm.
to get that for sure. And but I'm so grateful for, all of the iterations of the career so far that have like gotten to me exactly where I'm at right now, because they all had to happen in such specific ways. And um, yeah, and it's just like, you know, I wouldn't, it's a cliche, but it's like, I wouldn't do it over again. And I wouldn't do anything differently, really. It just is like, yeah. And that's,
Yes.
I think that's part of mental health too, is like, that's like, you know, being able to look at things clearly and say, you know, I accept exactly where I am. I surrender to the things that have caused pain and frustration, um, and I'm just open to whatever it is that is coming.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the way I think of it, and I think I wrote this in the liner notes either for my most recent album or the one that came before that, but I
mm,
remember in the kind of thank you part of the liner notes,
mhm,
you know, I thank so and so and so and so, and then I said, and I thank the troubles
mm,
because I feel like I'm in this place as well at this point in my life where I can see the bigger story, and I see how the dark times, the difficult times, the times when I just felt like I was at the end of a road of some sort and you know, lost. Um, I see now how they fit in to a bigger story, you know,
yeah,
and how they that wasn't the end, and that there has been, to use your words, you know, there has been grace and
yeah,
lessons of grace and patience and kindness and
mhm,
um, ultimately, um, you know, a sense of coming back to play, which is really the thing that I think brought most of us to music to begin with. We were playing music and then we were working
yeah,
music, right?
yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah. I want to take a small turn here and
Mm,
talk more about some of the resources at the SONA Foundation. You
mhm,
and I met through a fundraising house concert hosted at a private home by songwriter Shelley Peiken and composer Adam Gorgoni. And that
mhm,
concert was to raise funds for the SONA Foundation to support some of our programs. And so I want to mention that in addition to the TAP grant that I spoke about before, we have an educational series slash mixer event. We've done this, I think, 7 times now. We have another one coming up in a couple of months called Music and Money. And
mm,
the panels at these events have all been recorded. And so these are about really financial literacy specific to the music industry, which is a
mm,
confusing, very convoluted industry when it comes to how do we get paid as songwriters. And so these music and money panels have been um, just with some of the, you know, just stellar top industry leaders and top songwriters talking about, you know, all trying to chip away at little pieces of this to help all of us better understand that
mhm,
and have financial wellness. We also have relatively a new series called Between the Notes. It's a monthly-ish series of personal essays exploring the intersection of creativity and well-being. And we just published the most recent one going on our website today. It's about burnout and written by Erin Hannah Fine, who had a long career, still is a composer and songwriter, and had a really wonderful career as a touring artist, and is now a licensed therapist. And so
wow,
it's a nice piece, and we've got, I think, maybe 5 or 6 of these pieces up on the website under the Between the Notes series. And we also do virtual webinars on topics ranging from taxes to emergency relief support, how to navigate emergency relief, basically, for songwriters and composers. And then we do these intimate house concert fundraisers. We've done them featuring established songwriters, artists like Sarah McLachlan and Tom Morello, to emerging songwriters, and we've had different configurations in. And we've done these also in partnership with some venues in Los Angeles and New York City, and then at private homes. So I'll just give a shout out for anybody that's listening if they're interested in possibly hosting one of these types of concerts at their home, to definitely get in touch with us through the website. And what else do we have? We also have a newsletter about once a month. And so for folks listening, if you're not already subscribed to our SONA Foundation newsletter, you can sign up on the website. It's absolutely free. and we'll write to you and let you know what's going on in terms of these programs and anything else that comes down the road. Let's see here. Looking at my notes for 1 second. Oh, I would love to, speaking of the SONA Foundation, I would love to hear you, Joey, talk a little bit, because we've all sort of pieced together the resources that we've needed over time. What are some organizations or networks that have been helpful for you thinking again about mental health and navigating the career as a songwriter and as an artist and getting through burnout and all of
Yeah,
that stuff? Some organizations that have been good resources for you.
sure. Well, shouts out to my therapist, I guess I should say. I do
Love
have
our
a therapist.
therapist.
Love our therapists. And honestly, I want to shout out the publisher that I was with, Angry Mob Music. They truly, everyone there is so lovely. And like I said, if I ever had questions or was, struggling with anything, it was like I could always talk to anyone over there. They're a smaller company, so it's like that's one of the huge benefits. One of the reasons I was so, motivated to work with them was that, smaller company, it's like I was paid attention to. I wasn't worried that I was gonna, slip between the cracks at a big company or something. And it's like, and they really prioritize like, mental health too. So it's like they were a huge resource for all kinds of things for me. So shout
Mm.
out to them. And then well, I mean, I haven't used the resources that you have, but just shouts out to Sona. Honestly, like you guys are truly doing like, we as songwriters, for whatever reason, we can't like unionize. We can't. Um, I mean, that's correct. Like we can't unionize as songwriters, right? And it's
Yeah,
like,
I'm not the expert on the history. My understanding is that it has been denied songwriters and composers the right to unionize 3 times
right.
by Congress. Yeah.
And that's like, I think it's because they consider us all to be like small businesses or like independent contractors. So like independent contractors as small businesses can't unionize them. But all this to say, it's like Sona, and that's a whole other conversation that we could have. But like Sona is probably the closest thing that we have to a union right now for songwriters. So like, and the fact that you guys are doing these grants for mental health and for therapy and like everything you just mentioned, um, I say give the flowers to you guys for sure. And there's like Music Cares is doing great work. I know. Uh, Honestly, ASCAP is great. I've been with ASCAP forever. Like that's just the first PRO I ever worked with, and I just think they're a great company. And yeah, I mean, but anyway, Sona. That's my answer. Everyone supports Sona because it's a
Yeah,
great foundation
y
and even greater people working there.
yeah, thank you for that. Yes, so for folks who are interested in knowing more about the advocacy work, you can go to wearesona.com for information about all of that stuff.
Mhm.
And then for the stuff at the foundation, it's sonafoundation.com. And you
Mhm.
can browse both websites and find out all about the resources. And for the SONA Foundation, it's not a membership organization, whereas SONA is, the foundation is not. And so at the foundation, you can just crawl around the website, subscribe
Mhm.
to the newsletter, and we will just send you whatever resources we can send you. Um, Joey Verskotzi,
Mhm.
we're going to have to close up. This is such a great conversation, and there's so many threads that I can't wait to pick up with you the next time we talk. But I want to end with a couple of rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready for this?
I'll do my best. Yes.
Okay. You mentioned that you're right now working on your fourth album as your own artist project, right? I don't
Yep.
know if the answer is gonna be something from this album or something from earlier, but right now, what song of yours are you most loving?
Mm. Well, to keep it on topic, there's a song I wrote with Shelly Peiken called "Maybe I'm Depressed" that I love. Yeah.
I
So
love
maybe,
that song too.
yeah, you've heard it. That's right. Yeah.
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 Alright, what's your favorite place to go to in Los Angeles to get some peace of mind?
The Lake Shrine in Pacific Palisades, Self Realization Fellowship Lake Shrine.
It is so peaceful, so beautiful there.
Yes.
And you've reminded me that I haven't been there in too long, since before the pandemic, so I think it's
Yeah.
high time that I went back. Yeah.
Got to check it
Um,
out. Yeah.
who is your dream co-write?
Oh, it's like I have two, but I'm just gonna say two: Jeff Tweedy and
Mhm.
Beyonce.
Okay. Those are 2 names that you don't always hear side by side.
That's right.
But I think Jeff Tweedy is from your neck of the woods, right?
He's from Chicago, or
Ok
he's from Missouri, I believe. I think he's from like outside of St. Louis, but then it's like, well, Wilco has a song called Via Chicago, but like they're
okay.
it's like Via Chicago. Yeah, exactly.
I think I have never I'm pretty sure this is true, unless I'm forgetting a show. I have seen everyone in Wilco play, but I've never seen Wilco play. I'm pretty sure that's true.
Interesting. Oh, you
Yeah,
got Wilco play.
I know.
I've only seen them once. I took myself on a solo date 3 years ago, and it was like the best night ever. Yeah. Oh man, you're making me remember that night. It's so yeah, definitely see Wilco as a group play together
All together now.
for
Okay,
sure.
what are 3 of your must-haves for when you're sitting down to write or you're in the studio working? What are 3 things you have to have?
Ooh, cold brew coffee that I make. um, an acoustic guitar and my Apollo twin.
Okay. And do you have a favorite quote?
Ooh, the one that comes to mind right now that is definitely one of my favorites is from Paramahansa Yogananda, and it's everything else can wait, but our search for God cannot wait.
Hmm. And last question here. What is one of your current creative visions or goals?
Um, Sort of what I was saying earlier about um, removing myself from the center of the process, the creative
Mm,
process, and trying to just be as clear of a channel as I can be for music to come through me, and like music to that hopefully can help heal other people. So to get
mm,
myself out of the way in order to figure out how to make that happen.
mm. Beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you, Joey, and thank everybody who's tuned in. Thank you for joining us. We have Verskotzi's name right there up on the screen, so easy to find. Thank you so much for being here. The replay of this show will be available, linked on our website. The website is sonafoundation.com. You can also find the YouTube channel. Please subscribe. If you're not already signed up on our newsletter, you can do that right on our website, and you'll get all the latest information, support opportunities, and find out about events like the Songs Under the Stars show that Joey and I played together. Any final thoughts, Joey, from you for today?
Um, just thank you for having me, and keep for Sona, like keep fighting the good fight, as they say. It's such important work that you guys are doing, and um, for whatever reason, my father-in-law, something he says a lot is coming to mind, and that it's just something that I think is important for everyone. Is we can always show more empathy to others.
Hmm. Amen to that.
Yes.
And I would say that music is a great conduit for helping people feel that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well,
Thank you.
with that, that's a really great way to end. A final thank you for being in session with us, and a final thank you to the folks watching for being here with us as well. I am Arielle Silver, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone.